Hi, I'm Joey Arnold. This is American English, and today we're going to talk about tips to improve your writing. Okay, number 1. Get into your character's shoes. They got shoes. You want to write about them, you got to find those shoes. I don't exactly know where those shoes are, but if the character is a dragon slayer, you gotta go into the cave where the dragons are to find the shoes and to put the shoes on to understand what those characters are like. And when you understand the character, what they're thinking, their heart, of how they're feeling, then you can write about them better because you become them. You become the ball, and the ball can come into the basket because you are the ball. You have to believe in it. You have to follow it through to the end, to the goal, to the finish line. You really got to go there, and you can't stop until you make it work. So you got to get into the right perspective, the right frame of mind. You have to believe it. You got to go full throttle. Don't stop until you had enough. Do it until it hurts. No pain, no gain. And number 2, you got to read more. You got to study more. And as you read, then you can write. You can imitate and copy what you write, but not totally. But at first you can practice and have some journals and just write what you see, and then you start to borrow and recreate what you already saw in other stories that you read or you've seen or you heard about or something, and you can somehow make it into your own. And number 3, you got to ask more questions. As you ask more questions, then you can get information that you may not have already. And that could be really, 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 really good. Really good because you need to have some answers, especially when you know that your audience is probably going to ask these questions and more later on down the road. And so you need to be prepared with your product. And your product is what you write as a writer. That's your number 1 product. And you really need to be as prepared as possible to bring it. You gotta bring it like nothing else. Almost cold turkey, but it's like you really need to try your best in this, because you don't want to write the same thing over and over. You want to improve and you want to get better as a writer, but you can't really get better if you do the same things over and over. And so you have to find new ways to recreate things, to write better and more creative, more interesting, go different places, explore different things that you have not explored before. And in order to explore those different things, topics, subjects, characters, different kinds of characters, you really need to ask questions to help you develop the characters more. Characters need to be based on real life most of the time. At least a certain percentage of the character traits of a character needs to be from real people. Otherwise it's not believable, it's not relatable. And the less believable and less relatable a character is, the more likely people are not going to understand it and read it. They want to read something that sounds a little realistic, emotionally speaking, and also spiritually speaking to some extent. That's the most important. Now, physically speaking, you don't have to be totally realistic. Not exactly. Depends on the kind of thing you're writing. You can write things that are scientific, like science fiction. That can be creative. You can talk about spaceships, and they can do things that scientists and engineers may not be able to do. at the moment, but maybe someday they will. And so it has to be believable, but it doesn't have to be totally doable at the moment. But make people believe, open their minds, but try to base the things off things that people can relate to, that people can understand, that they can get a hold of, and that they want to believe in. Find things that people love and just try to make it a little more lovable. Try to make it like a stuffed animal. You got a stuffed animal here, and try to make the stuffed animal as huggable as possible, because you know it's a nice stuffed animal, and you want to hug it, you want it to be soft, and so just make it softer than the other stuffed animals. You don't have to make it look like this, you know, because maybe little girls and little boys may not want to hug this, but they will hug this because they know what this is, and they don't know what this is. Maybe you could have this, but it takes more risk, and sometimes it's okay, but for the most part, it might be better, at least sometimes, to just come out with something kind of like this. It could be different to some extent, but you just make it more soft. And when you write, you can have certain kinds of characters that people have seen before. They may want to read something with a hero. That has been very, very common for books and stories in general, and TV shows and movies, and just all over since the dawn of time. And we like to read stories about characters like the good guy who wins eventually against the bad guy. We want to feel good at the end of the story. Not all the stories are like that, but most of the time it is. And so that is one of the formulas that works really, really well. And continue to do research about the things that you want to write. If you just want to be a journalist, you can try to be more to the point and be more direct in what you're writing. Be really honest, straightforward. As a journalist, you report the news. You tell people what's happening nowadays. You don't really need to have any characters. You don't really need to be very creative, unless if you want to try to make some comparisons and use some idioms and use some stories to compare the modern things that are happening in the world with some parables, some illustrations. You could do that, but for the most part, it's not really necessary as a journalist. If you are a creative writer and you're writing novels and things like that, then you want to really be a lot more creative, and you really got to take your time to develop the characters and find a way to find a background stories for them, because you're creating a bubble of a new universe where people will jump into sometimes to escape reality, because you know that life can be really, really stressful and really, really depressing sometimes, and so we want to escape it, get away, and do something like maybe drugs, alcohol, sports, or read a book, you know. And so sometimes you can take a normal story and you can dress it up and make it sound a little different, and you can make it sound more exciting if you tell the story in a different way. And it can be interesting because it's based on a true story. It's just been edited a little, but just for entertainment or for educational benefits. Number 6, just keep on writing. Write more and more and more. Write on your good days, on your bad days, and you keep on going and going because you want to show people a whole new world like Aladdin. Number 7, take classes. Take some creative English writing classes. Ask people questions. Do some research. Continue to learn. Learn for the rest of your life. Do it as much as possible. Number 8, find a mentor who can help you, who can talk to you about what you're writing. Keep on going and going, because you know that if you believe in writing, you can do it like none other. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't, because if you believe in it, then you can fly. And you want to fly because it's like, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. I just want to, I want to get away. You know, it's like I want to go up to the sky, and I want to fly, and I want to tell my story, and I don't know why, but as a writer, we feel more powerful and more creative when we have the freedom to do those kinds of things. And so don't let people drag you down to the ground. Try to find your space as a writer. You need to have like a room that is quiet to write. And you need to be clear. You need to be in a quiet place so you have the time to come up with things. Take your time and enjoy.